Stop for a minute and take a look at the room you're in. Look at the screen you're watching, the lights overhead, maybe a phone resting on the desk. We navigate through this web of man-made objects every day without giving the infrastructure behind them a second thought. On a cold November evening in 1965, a massive swath of the American Northeast lost power completely, leaving millions gridlocked and isolated in the dark. This collapse started 500 miles away at a Niagara power station. An electrical relay detected a power spike. Within seconds, it pushed its load onto another line, overloading it, which tripped the next. All 5 northbound lines dumped their capacity south. By the time the cascade finished 10 seconds later, New York City was completely cut off. A city like New York produces neither food, nor clothing, nor heat on its own. It relies entirely on external supplies, pumped in through that electrical grid. 800,000 commuters were trapped underground in stalled subway cars. Without that invisible feed of electricity, a modern high-density city cannot sustain human life. The stakes of that failure were immediate. In the operating rooms at Mount Sinai Hospital, medical staff were midway through delivering twins, using a specific mixture of anesthetic gases that included cyclopropane. Cyclopropane is a highly explosive chemical, forcing the doctors and nurses to navigate a volatile environment and finish the delivery using only the open flames of matches and candles. A few miles away at the United Nations General Assembly, international diplomacy stopped. The blackout silenced the interpreters' boxes. Deprived of the audio feed translating the delegates' languages, the entire assembly was rendered deaf and mute. Our tools have become incredibly specialized. We use them without understanding how they work. Because every part of this system relies interdependently on the others, removing one foundational element dismantles the entire structure. To see how we built this highly vulnerable network, we have to look back 12,000 years. A period of severe global climate change caused the high grasslands of places like North Africa and Central Asia to dry out, destroying the plants and animals that wandering human tribes relied on to survive. Facing starvation, the surviving nomads abandoned the dying plains and migrated down into the great river valleys, like the Nile, searching for water and soil that could still support life. Concentrating that many people in one area meant the river alone couldn't feed them. The solution was the plow. By harnessing animal power to turn the soil, humans could dictate how much harvest they would yield the following year. They could plan for the future and generate a reliable, steady surplus of grain. Knowing exactly where your next meal is coming from means you no longer have to chase it. When those early farmers guaranteed next year's harvest, they traded their nomadic independence for permanent settlements, building the exact dependency we live in today. Producing surplus grain meant you needed somewhere to keep it. The village potter had to invent the wheel to churn out storage vessels fast enough. But a room full of identical clay pots creates a new problem: keeping track of whose grain is whose. This diagram illustrates how physical inventory transitioned into recorded data. The very first writing systems were strict accounting tools, a name and a symbol etched into clay to log inventory for the village granary. In Egypt, maintaining this agricultural engine required knowing exactly when the Nile would inundate the fields. The pharaoh's astronomers looked to the sky and tracked the movements of a specific star, Sirius. They noticed that Sirius appeared on the horizon just before dawn at intervals of exactly 365 days. That appearance happened precisely 1 day before the floodwaters began to rise. By combining those two observations, the Egyptians built a calendar. With a reliable calendar, a strong central government could organize tens of thousands of citizens, commanding the massive labor forces required to construct monumental architecture. The great ancient empires were vast administrative networks, holding an interdependent society together. The pyramids and temples were the byproducts of a government, managing a population strictly bound to its technology. The Egyptian technological web expanded over thousands of years, giving society time to adapt. Today, entire nations are buying into this exact same trap at a fraction of the speed. Driven by the discovery of oil, it took Kuwait roughly 4,000 days to accomplish what took the pharaohs 4 millennia. They transitioned from a nomadic existence straight into a heavily centralized, modern urban environment. In a single generation, the baseline knowledge of how to live off the land vanished. Without their power stations and desalination plants, the residents cannot unplug and walk back into the desert. The advanced industrial nations maintain their own complex networks by exporting this model. The global economy relies on selling this bewildering, interdependent technology to the rest of the world. We've seen how the plow triggered the need for permanent settlements, writing, and calendars. What invention hammered out of metal in the Kingdom of Lydia 2,600 years ago still dictates every transaction in our reality today?